মিছন এপিএসসি এই যে ইউটিউব চেনেলটোলৈ আপোনালোকক স্বাগতম জনাইছোঁ। আজি আমি জিঅ'টেকনিকেল ইঞ্জিনিয়াৰিঙৰ এটা ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট পাৰ্ট ডেট ইজ শ্লপ ষ্টেবিলিটি এই বিষয়ে ডিছকাছ কৰিম। যদি আপোনালোকে ভিডিঅ'টো চাই বা লাইভ ক্লাছটো কৰি উপকৃত হৈছে যেন ভাৱ হয়, দেন প্লিজ চেনেলটো লাইক, শ্বেয়াৰ এণ্ড ছাবস্ক্ৰাইব কৰি দিব। Now we'll try to discuss about the slope stability. Slope stability is geotechnical engineering or an important chapter. One of the important chapter from geotechnical engineering, that is slope stability. So MCQ questions pai ahi thake ei particular chapter tur pora. So aji ami ei particular chapter to discuss korim. That is slope stability. Okay. So slope stability bulile actually ki buja jay. Slopes are basically the inclined surface which having great change in elevations. Okay, slopes like actually inclined surface hoy having gradual change in elevation or gradual change hoy. Slopes are two types, natural and man-made slope. Okay, slope duta prokar ase, one is natural and another is man-made slopes. Okay, so our slope duta prokar ase, one is natural, another is man-made slope, right? So natural slope is basically the inclined surface. Suppose apunar eta embankment ase and here you are making some angle with horizontal theta. So yat suppose kisman soil particles ase, right? So this particular structure is nothing but the slopes. Okay, slope always have an inclinations. Or hey, inclination to ki hoy, the inclination is basically the gradual inclination. So we have some natural slope and some man-made slope. Natural slope means suppose one mountain is there. Suppose this is a mountain. So in this mountain, if you see that particular area, this particular area is inclined to a certain angle with the horizontal, right? So hetu kihor karone built hoise, it by means of topography বা topographical changeor karone mountains hoisile. So because of that mountains jodi amar slope to form hoise, that is nothing but it is a natural phenomena. But ketiaba ki hoy manuhe নিজেও কিছুমান embankment বনায়. Suppose এটা আমাৰ ৰিভাৰ আছে, ৰিভাৰৰ সাইডত আমি এটা এম্বেকমেন্ট বনালো বাই মিন্স অফ আৰ্টিফিচিয়েলি। ওকে, আমি নিজে মানুহে নিজে কনষ্ট্ৰাক্ট কৰি ললো। সো তেতিয়া হেতু কি বুলি কয়, তাক কোৱা হয় ম্যান মেড ষ্ট্ৰাকচাৰ, ৰাইট? সো সেইকাৰণে স্লপ জেনেৰেলি উই হেভ টু টাইপস, one is natural and another is man made, right? So আমাৰ স্লপ দুটা প্ৰকাৰৰ আছে, প্ৰথমটো হৈছে man made and another is basically the natural. The stability of slope works on the principle of shear stress. So slope eta etia keneke stable hobo, that is important. So how we can know how the slope is stable or not? Suppose this is, suppose the angle is theta and we have some particular slope here or some particular embankment is here. So how do we know that how the slope is stable or not? So tar karone ami basically sabo lagibo the shear strength parameter. Okay, soilor jitu shear strength parameter tar upora depend kori we can say whether the slope is stable or whether the slope is unstable. So unstable hobo ne stable hobo heikhini ami basically shear strength or pora ba shear stress or pora gom pam. Okay, so if the shear stress acting on weak soil layer is more than shear strength of that soil, then the failure or sliding may occur. Suppose আমাৰ যেটো inclined surface আছে, ইয়াৰ যিখিনি soils আছে, below the inclined surface the soil has less shear strength. Suppose below the inclined surface soil or shear strength suppose asile apnar sigma 1 or we can denote as tau 1, aru above the inclined surface the soil has shear strength tau 2. Okay, jodi apnar tau 1 shear strength of the below the inclined surface, the shear strength of the soil is more as compared to the shear strength above the inclined surface, then the slope is stable. Okay, so we can determine the stability with reference to the soil shear strength parameter আমাৰ যিটো শ্লপ হ'ব তাৰ যদি আপৱাৰ্ড বা শ্লপৰ ওপৰৰ ডাইৰেকশ্যনত যদি চইলছ বিলাকৰ বেচিকেলি shear strengthটো কম থাকে তলৰ যিখিনি soil তেতিয়া obviously the slope failure may occurs okay so সেইটো হৈছে main principle okay so the সেইটোৱে কৈছে the shear strength of that soil then the failure or sliding may occur so তেতিয়া আমাৰ failure বা sliding occur কৰে right then we have the most common reasons of slope failure are so our slope বিলাক কিয় failure হয় we have to know how why the slopes are fails okay so we have several factors right earthquake then rainfall or water seepage then sudden increase of load due to construction soil erosion sudden drawdown of water level in canals এইকেইটা হৈছে আপোনাৰ basic reason earthquake means when the soil particle vibrates যেতিয়া earthquakeৰ কাৰণে কি হয় soil particles try to vibrate আৰু সেই vibrationটো হোৱাৰ লগে লগে shear strengths become declining or the shear strength become decreased that's why because of that earthquake may cause the slope failure second is rainfall suppose our heavy rainfall হৈ আছে in that slope area so because of heavy rainfall infiltration taking place the soil become saturated okay when the soil saturated below the surface then what is happening so when the soil is saturated below the surface of the slope the automatically the soil particles or the shear strength of the soil below the surface of the slope become loosened that's why uh, because of rainfall also or because of water seepage also water seepage means when water is percolating through the slope মাজেৰে যেতিয়া water বিলাক percolate কৰিব then also the slope failure increases okay then sudden increase of load due to the construction suppose ইয়াতে আমাৰ আমি এটা হেভি বিল্ডিংছ বহাই দিলো উইদাউট so much thinking some contractor or some engineers if they make a heavy buildings along the slope line what will happen because of that buildings the load will be or the vertical load will be increases because of vertical load obviously the soil which is present below the soil below the slope they are getting weakened okay that's why there is a sudden increase of load due to construction may increase the slope failure tendency. Then another is soil erosions. If the soils getting eroded by means of some reasons like rainfall, water seepage, if the soil which is above the slope, these is try to erode it or the erosions phenomena is taking place, then also slope failure occurs, right? Then another is sudden drawdown of water level in the canals. So suppose we have one canal and from that canal if the water suppose প্ৰথমতে কেনেলটোত water level আছিলে suppose 1 meter because of some leakage the water level or the drawdown take place and it becomes 0.5 meter suppose so তেতিয়া কি হ'ব obviously the waters that are percolated right so সেই water বিলাক লাহে লাহে percolate কৰিব আৰম্ভ কৰিব আৰু তাৰ কাৰণে কি হ'ব basically the slope will not able to stay and it become fail okay next we have the types of slope so we also have to know about what are the types of slope আমি basically classificationত পালো যে types of slope we have basically in case of classification we find that we have man-made slope and we have natural slope but based on this we cannot analyze the slope for analyzing the slope we are separate slope into different categories first one is finite slope and second one is infinite slope finite slope means the name itself says that it is finite that means it has clear top and bottom boundaries suppose this is a slope suppose this is a bottom boundary then another boundary is also there which is top boundary right and in between them the soil particles are held right So if it has a specific top boundary and a bottom boundary, this is a bottom boundary and this is top boundary, then it is known as finite slope. These slopes are generally man-made, like highway and railway embankment. If you try to make highway or railway embankment, then what is happening? If you make the railway or highway embankment, so we always provide a bottom boundaries and also in top boundaries. That means in this man-made structures or the for man-made slope, basically the curve which are formed with the process of humans or some মানুহৰ যদি process মানুহে নিজে যদি বনায় তেতিয়াহ'লে বেসিক্যালি বেছিভাগ সময় কি কৰা হয় আমি টপতো কি কৰোঁ এটা ডেফিনিট বাউণ্ডেৰী দিওঁ এণ্ড বটামতো এটা ডেফিনিট বাউণ্ডেৰী দিওঁ চ' সেইকাৰণে মেইন ষ্ট্ৰাকচাৰবিলাকত জেনেৰেলি ফাইনাইট শ্লপ দেখা পোৱা যায় ৰাইট এণ্ড দ্য ফেইলাৰ প্লেন ইজ কাৰ্ভ ইন শেপ চ' ফেইলাৰ প্লেনটো আমাৰ shape curve shape hoy okay the failure plane jodi a2 slope fail kore the failure is something like that this is a curve like failure this is a curve like failure right so next we have infinite slope this slope have no clear start and end boundaries so infinite obviously name itself shows infinite it doesn't have the clear start so amar clear top boundary ba clear bottom boundary ate nai the depth is large. We cannot say which one is clear boundaries or which is the boundary of that infinite slope. Property of the soil at equal depth from ground surface is same throughout the slope. The failure is parallel to the ground surface. At a basic difference to say infinite slope or failure is basically parallel to the ground surface, right? So the failure is parallel to the ground surface, right? Next, how to determine the stability of any object on inclined surface. So we have, the main purpose to analyze the slope is to know the stability, right? For stability determinations, we are assuming the soil particle as a block. So it with a soiler particles hoy, it is ami block hisabe dhori lolu. Okay. We can recall and analyze the stability of this block and weight W on an inclined surface. Jitu ami engineering mechanics ot koru basically. Hey eketa procedure ami use korso in engineering mechanics ot friction or khetrot ami ki koru eta inclined block loi lo, right? Aru inclined block to ami ki koru resolve koribo try koru, right? So in the same manner, we can resolve here also. So ami yate ki hobo the weight of the block is W suppose. This is the weight of the block. So here duta component thakibo. It is W cos theta. Theta is basically inclination with horizontal, and W cos theta is the vertical component, and W sin theta is the horizontal component. And we have added another since the block is moving in downward directions, then there is also have upward opposite to that downward directions or opposite to that directions. We have friction force that is mu into n, and n we know W cos theta, right? N is basically the reactions. Okay, so here we can see that since the component of weight is trying to pull block downward F1, whereas friction Fs is trying to oppose the sliding. So if the friction force, if the F1 is more than the friction force, the block will slide. Obviously, যদি আপোনাৰ এই ফোর্সটো বেশি হৈ যায় which compared to Fs, then the block is fail, right? Suppose this one is F1, F1 is W sin theta, and Fs is mu n. So যদি আমাৰ F1 to ডাঙৰ হৈ যায় Fs কে, obviously slope will fail, or obviously soil particle will, or the block will go downward direction, right? And যদি আমাৰ friction force to বেশি থাকে as compared to F1, the force will be balanced, or the block will not move, rather it will go upward direction, right? So সেইটোৱে ইয়াতে কৈছে if F1 greater than Fs, the block will slide down, but যদি আমাৰ friction force to বাঢ়ি যায়, block will remain stationary, or you can say it will not move. Some principles and concept is used in soil mechanics to study stability of slope. So soil mechanics or কিছুমান concept আমি use কৰিম for determining the stability of slopes, right? So stability of infinite slope. Consider an infinite slope inclined at an angle I. Suppose we are assuming one infinite slope and the incline angle is suppose theta, angle is suppose I আমি ধৰি লৈছো. It consists of two soil layers. Suppose আমাৰ দুটা soil layer আছে, one is soft and another is rocky below the ground surface. Let us assume that the failure will occur at the junction of soft and hard layer. So suppose আমাৰ এটা layer আছে soft soiler and another layer আছে rocker. So we are assuming that the failure will occur in between the intermediate points between the rock and the soft layer. Okay, the soil has a cohesion c. So soiler যেটো আমাৰ cohesion value c কৈছে, angle of action আমাৰ phi কৈছে, and the soil depth is basically z. Okay, so আমি analysis কৰিম basically. Okay, so আমি analysis কৰি কি পালো, see. So just like an in case of inclined surface and block, যেনেকৈ আমি block আৰু inclined surface কৰিছিলো, we have got two force. Tau is the shear stress. Shear stress to obviously friction force নিচিনা একে হয়, and it is trying to slide the wedge. আৰু এই shear stress to কি কৰিছে, slide to তললৈ আহিবলৈ দি আছে, that is tau, right? Tau f, which is the shear strength and trying to oppose the sliding wedge. Okay, tau f is basically the shear strength which is trying to oppose the sliding wedge, and another force is tau f. Hence, slope will remain stable only when tau f is greater than tau, right? So to design safe slope, a factor of safety is taken into account. So আমি এটা factor of safety law, we are basically and take one ratio, that is shear strength with respect to shear stress, that is tau f by tau. It is nothing but shear force. So factor of safety generally is a formula. That formula you have to remember it. I'll not go for the derivations. You can refer any books for the derivations, because in case of MCQ exam you have to know the formula only. Okay, but you also have to get one idea how to derive that equations. Okay, otherwise you may confuse when you go for solving the questions. Okay, here see, factor of safety is nothing but c plus gamma z cos square I tan phi gamma z cos I sin I, where I is the inclined angle, phi is the internal frictions, z is the depth, gamma is basically the unit weight, and c is basically the cohesions. Okay, so এইটো আমাৰ formula আছে. Try to remember the formula. For what is the formula? Factor of safety. Okay, factor of safety is equal to cohesion value plus gamma, that means unit weight, into depth into cos square I, that means inclined angle, cos of inclined angle square, divided by into tan phi, that is tan phi is nothing but it is internal angle of frictions of soil, then gamma z, then cos I, then sin I, right? So we are getting as gamma z cos I sin I. For stability, factor of safety should be greater than 1. Okay, obviously factor of safety greater than 1 means tau f should be greater than tau. Tau f should be greater than tau, obviously the block will remain stationary. Okay, for equilibrium condition, when the slope is at the verge of failing, then factor of safety is equal to 1. So factor of safety amar 1 hobo jetia it is in equilibrium condition, or we can say that in critical condition. We have two terms, in critical condition or in case of equilibrium condition, the factor of safety equal to 1. Then the different cases, we have to know the different cases also. Let's suppose we are using the cohesionless soil. If we are using the cohesionless, what will happen? So we have to know about, if we are using the cohesionless soil, what will be the, or what can be happen? Okay, so in case of cohesionless soil, obviously the cohesion value will be small, right? In case of cohesionless soil, obviously the cohesion value is small. Okay, so hence the c value will be 0 in this formula. If you see this formula, the c term will be 0, right? And gamma should be gamma dry, and this gamma also gamma dry, because it is a dry soil, if you are assuming the dry soil. And then we are left with the factor of safety is equal to tan phi by tan I. Okay, so আপোনালোকে যদি এটো কৰিছে তেন্তে গম পাই যাব factor of safety only is basically 10 phi. It is actually independent of cohesions, only dependent upon the angle of internal frictions and the inclined angles, right? Then when the soil is submerged, suppose the soil is submerged, যদি আপনার soil to submerge হয় তেতিয়া কি হ'ব, gamma is basically gamma submerged হৈ যাব and factor of safety is 10 phi by 10 i. Okay, so it is independent of, basically it is independent of, you can say that it is independent of gamma submerged. Okay, so in the study section ABCD depth Z we can obtain. These are not important, these are actually derivation how we derive that equations. Okay, so if there is an water table is coming, then we have to consider the pore pressure effect also, so that's why we are deducting minus u. Okay, u means pore pressure, right? Then for cohesive soil we have another formula. This is C plus sigma t cos square I 10 phi sigma t cos I sin I, right? Then we'll go for the Taylor stability numbers. So basically what we have to remember, I will say now. So we have several cases. We have to remember case 1, that what is the formula of factor of safety when the soil is dry in case of cohesionless soil, that is 10 phi by 10 I. Second thing we have to remember, what is the formula for soil is submerged when it is a cohesionless soil and dry and submerged soil, then factor of safety is 10 phi by 10 I. You have to remember this formula. This is number 2, this is number 1, this is number 2. Okay, you have to remember it. And then you have to remember case number 3, that is the water table effect. If the water table is in encounter, what is happening, like this is a water table, right? So for that we have to remember that factor of safety for cohesion soil is this one. You have to remember 3. Here we can say that C plus sigma t minus u, u is nothing but pore water pressure cos square I 10 phi divided by sigma d cos I sin I. You have to remember this formula. Then you have also remember this formula for cohesionless soil. If the water table is come into fixtures, then sigma t minus u divided by sigma t 10 phi by 10 4. This is the equation number 4 you have to remember. Next, for cohesive soil or C5 soil, the factor of safety is this. You have to remember it 5 for C5 soil. Okay, these formulas are important. Now we'll move to Taylor stability chart. Okay, Taylor derived and dimensionless number called Taylor stability number. Taylor derived কৰিছিলে এটা dimensionless number after extensive tests on different soils in different heights and density. He gave simple parameter to determine factor of safety in a given soil. So Taylor stability chart এখন basically a stability search. With the help of that chart, we can determine directly factor of safety, because for determining factor of safety, we have a lot of calculations requires, right? So to avoid that particular lots of calculation or for the time consuming, the Taylor give approximate table. With the help of that, we can determine factor of safety directly. So here we have to find the stability number. Stability number as well is nothing but the cohesions factor of safety into gamma into HC, right? That means C is the cohesion, gamma is basically the density of the soil, or you can say the unit weight of the soil. Then HC is the critical height. Factor of safety is basically FOS. In case of dry soil, gamma is obviously become to gamma dry, and submerged soil, gamma is obviously becoming gamma submerged. And for saturated soil or sudden drawdown condition, gamma is gamma saturated, right? So from there we can determine the stability number. Based on that stability number, we can determine the factor of safety, right? Then coming to the stability of fine slope, failure of the finite slopes occurs due to rotations of failure, and failure plan failure can be T type. So these are important for MCQ type questions. So we have T kind of failure. One failure is if the failure is happening like that in the top portion. Another is in the bottom portion. Another is this hard stratum portion. That is 3. So we have three failure. One is A, B, C. First failure is slope failure. Failure surface cuts above the toe of the slope. So toe oporot jodi kate, then it is known as slope failure. Okay, the slope AA, this figure you can say that it is slope failure. It is observed when the soil mass is below the toe is strong as compression and rigid and slope angle is high. যদি toe তলৰ যিখিনি soil আছে সেই soilখিনি যদি বেসিক্যালি strong নহয় তেতিয়াহ'লে কি হ'ব toe failure that is occurs is known as slope failure. Toe failure is basically toe যদি failure হয়, this is the toe. Okay, this is the toe and this is the base. Okay, toe যদি failure হয়, toe failure b bit, it is occur when slope is steep and soil is homogeneous. So toe failure কেতিয়া occur হয়, try to remember slope তো যদি আমাৰ বহুত steep থাকে, if the soil is homogeneous then it is known as toe failure, right? Then we have base failure. Base failure when the soil mass below the slope of the toe. Toe তলৰ খিনি যিখিনি soil mass হয় সেইখিনি যদি weak হয় and soft হয়, whereas above the toe is hard. যদি above the toe খিনি যদি hard হয় তেতিয়াহ'লে এইটো কোৱা হয় base failure, right? Occurs when the slope is flat. আৰু এইটো কেতিয়া occur কৰা হয় যেতিয়া slope টো আমাৰ flat থাকে, right? Next, what are the methods for determining the finite slope? You have to remember basically the method names, because sometimes they are asking the method names. You don't need to go details, but I'll give this overview of this method. Swedish circle method. In this method, equilibrium of the arc shaped soil base is considered. Okay, if ACB represent the plan or the failure and O is the center, suppose O is the center and ACB is the plan, then the weight of weights acting at CG, then overturning moment, we have to determine the overturning moment. Okay, where D is the perpendicular distance of line of actions of the force W from the center, then we can determine the total cohesive force. Okay, then we'll also determine the resisting force. Now we'll equate the total cohesive force with resisting force, and then we'll basically find the ratio between resisting moment and overturning moment, and we'll get one particular formula, C r square theta divided by WD. R is basically the radius, C is the cohesion, theta is the angle, W is basically the weight of the weights, and D is the distance. All right, so for C-file method, in this method the soil mass above the failure plane is divided into many slices and combined equilibrium of the weights is considered. So আমি কি কৰো এইবিলাক many slide আমি ভাগ কৰি লওঁ, right? Then we'll determine the perpendicular reactions. We also determine the shear stress. Okay, so we are basically determine summation of W, summation of N, summation N10, and from there we can determine the factor of safety using this formula, Cm r theta summation N 10 phi by summation T, right? Then we have another method that is known as friction circle method. This method is based on the assumption that resultant force acting on the slip surface is tangential to the concentric circle of the radius r sin alpha. In other words, resultant reactions between the two portions of soil mass on either side of the slip plane acting at an angle phi with the normal to the slip plane is assumed to pass tangentially to the concentric circles, the radius which is known as r sin phi. Okay, here we are assuming the radius as r sin phi when we are making the friction circle. Radius of the friction circle is nothing but r sin phi, where r is the radius of the slip circles. And what are the expression for factor of safety? Factor of safety is nothing but shear stress divided by shear stress. Okay, shear strength divided by shear stress. In terms of angle of friction, factor of safety is nothing but 10 phi divided by 10 phi, where phi m is mobilized angle of friction. In terms of cohesions, factor of safety is C by Cm, where C is the cohesions and Cm is the mobilized cohesions. And in terms of critical height, Hc by h, where h is the critical height, h is the actual height. Okay, সেইখিনি আছিলে আজিৰ ভিডিওটোৰ কোৰ্স. ওকে, সো ইয়াক লৈ কিছুমান MCQs আহে, সো আপোনালোকে ট্ৰাই কৰিব এইবিলাক MCQs. So this MCQ you can try it. This is a MCQ, stability number short যিটো relations তাৰ ওপৰত আহিছে. Okay, then we have considering some assumptions. Based on all this, we can go for the exercise. So আপোনালোকে বুক বিলাকত ৰিফাৰ কৰিব, বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ এক্সাৰসাইজ প্ৰবলেমছ আছে, টেইলৰ ষ্টেবিলিটি নাম্বাৰ ফৰ্মুলাটো সুধি দিয়ে কেতিয়াবা, চ' সেইখিনি ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট হয়, চ' আপোনালোকে সলভ কৰিব। চ' থেংক ইউ ফৰ ৱাচিং। যদি আপোনালোকৰ ভিডিঅ'টো চাই ভাল লাগে দেন প্লিজ লাইক, শ্বেয়াৰ এণ্ড ছাবস্ক্ৰাইব কৰি দিব। থেংক ইউ ফৰ ৱাচিং।